Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Desiree Dubois, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together, and I'm even more excited to have your story available to our listeners because it's amazing. We've already talked about this before. I know we met and that kind of thing. But for full disclosure, we've actually met in person and had lunch. You made me lunch, which was amazing. Thank you again. And I got a chance to meet your better half. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Opportunity. Thank you for the pleasure of being
This is
here.
exciting.
Yes.
So where were you born?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Did you grow up in Philadelphia?
For the most part, I went to elementary school and Catholic school, West Philadelphia Catholic Girls High School is what I graduated from. And then I went on to go to college in Miami. I wanted to get out of that cold. So I started seeking the sun, following the sun, and that was in Miami where I went for a couple of years.
So which college did you go to in Miami?
Miami-Dade.
Oh, okay.
Community college. I wasn't sure what I wanted to major in. I started with communications and broadcasting, became a disc jockey, then realized that was only going to go so far for so long. And then I transferred out to Southern California, following the sun, to University of Southern California for my bachelor's in business administration.
Awesome.
That's where I got the business bug.
So after college, well, actually, let me ask you this. Growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
My mother. She was an entrepreneur in her own way. Like if we wanted extra dance lessons, for example, and we didn't have enough for my father's income, she would go and she would sell wigs. She would buy wigs from the wholesale, right? We go down there and we go knock on doors, believe it or not. And people would like to come in and we try the wigs on and style them. They would buy them and then all of them would do it consistently. Or if we needed money, and that's how she paid for my dance lessons, or if we needed money for modeling school, she would babysit a couple of the neighborhood kids for a period of time for the extra money. So she just showed if you want more, you just do a little bit more. And that was what I've always worked. If I want more than what was available to me, just do more. And there was so many different ways of doing it. So I learned from her that she was the first African-American photographer that had a studio in Philadelphia, PA, Stork Studio. So she was a businesswoman.
Wow, that's awesome. So what was your favorite thing about growing up in Philadelphia?
Well, at that time, it was safe. The house was great. We were down the street from school, the school friends. There was a George's Hoagie shop across the street, which was which was very much amenity to a young person. I liked it because that's all I knew. My father's from Jamaica, and so he brought a little of that Jamaican flair into the mix. But it was the family and the friends and the gatherings that we had together. And I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and we're all still close.
Wow, that's cool. So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Music. I used to play the violin. They thought I was
Ooh.
the first violin. They thought I was going to be either a musician or a librarian because I would, even from grade school, I would walk around reading the book.
Yeah.
So I'd be, walking with the book reading or every moment I had reading. And then it was the music and art. It's more the creative side. But at that time, there was no female violinist that I could model after. Now there are many, but then it was like I didn't see how I could be able to pursue that.
Gotcha. We know why you went to Miami-Dade after you graduated high school. Why did you go to USC?
Business. I moved to California.
Okay.
And I wanted to, it was recommended. I really narrowed into what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was worth the investment. And I went to USC because one, I knew it was a good school and I felt that I could, it was one that I got accepted into.
So a good buddy of mine did his undergraduate at education at USC, and he's a huge Trojan fan. And we're always giving him guff because he's always doing this. right? And we're like, oh, you're number two. You're number two, right? This is fight on, baby. This is fight on. This is not right. But we always have a lot of fun at his expense.
Yes, it's a great school, and they have
It
a great
really is.
and I probably should have stayed more involved. I haven't been that involved recently. I've gone back a couple times since then for the entrepreneur program
Yeah.
and to share my business experience with their entrepreneur club. But I haven't been involved recently.
I hope you do more of that.
I
I
enjoy
really do, because they need it, right? Young people need to hear from you about business, and they need to hear from you about entrepreneurship. It's a big deal. We just recently lost a friend of mine who was a professor at San Diego State teaching entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
And we're in the process right now of trying to rally around his students and rally around his employees and all that. And it was quite a shock. And what he was doing was reaching these students in a way that almost nobody could. And he had started a tech company and built it up and sold it for a lot of money, and had a way of teaching and mentoring these students where the normal sort of what you would call normal level of achievement, normal level of activity, normal level of values was not his. His was always elevated. And I know that's the way you are too. And I know that you'd be a great example for the students at USC. I'd love to encourage you to keep doing that.
I'm always continue to mentor different people and different students. And as a matter of fact, for the last couple of years post-COVID, coming up in November 13th, we do a STEM event. And and it's a combination of about 8 women business entrepreneurs and professionals. And we go to the high school. We're going to San Diego High School. And we spend the whole afternoon there talking about how they can utilize those talents, the STEM talents, in different industries. And
So
so
San Diego and Encinitas?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's in November 13th, and it's a foundation from Enterprising Women. So we've done it every year,
Awesome.
and I myself and one other person is the leaders here in San Diego. So it's very, very important. It's always important for women, and I think it really makes a difference for them to see like-minded people that they can identify with. And there's so much talent out there. They just need to see it and need to know where they can direct it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you need to reach them, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
and you know this, you can do those events and there'll be one or two people that'll look at you from the audience and you'll go, "Oh, they just got it."
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
When the student's
absolutely.
ready, the teacher will appear, right?
Yes.
It's no truer words were ever spoken. So that's awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. So for those that don't know, Encinitas is it's a suburb just north of or a community just north of San Diego in North County, San Diego. So really cool, right on the coast. Um, Home of Moonlight State Beach, in fact. One of right?
Okay.
Awesome. It's awesome. So so after college, after USC,
Mhm.
you leave and you go, where do you go next?
So can I back up a little bit?
Of course, of course.
Okay, all right. So one of the things that people ask, like, how did you start entrepreneurship at
Yeah.
12? My mother used to take me to dance lessons on a Saturday morning, and I would teach the same dance lessons Saturday afternoon at the local community center, at the local playground. And I would charge the students for the dance lessons. So it really was a glorified babysitting service. The
Yeah.
parents would drop the kids off, and I would keep them for a couple of hours and dancing. But as we prepared for our recitals, then I created the recitals for my girls, and made the uniforms and charged them for the uniforms, and we sold tickets, and it was a packed house. And then we realized that the management came in, and they wanted to shut us down because we had exceeded occupancy. Well, at 12 years old, I was not paying attention to occupancy, if I even
Right.
was. But the parents insisted that they let the show go on. But then after that, they said, you can't do any more shows there. But the thing is that I find the lesson learned in that is that you can take the knowledge that you learn. It doesn't have to be people wait for degrees and certificates and all that's great, but you can take it and be able to teach somebody else at a different level with it because experience is the best teacher. And then from there, when I was in high school, I think everyone remembers selling that world's famous chocolate bar.
Mhm.
It's $1 for the fundraiser.
Yep.
Well, one day I wound up eating my whole bar and couldn't resist, and I didn't have a dollar to pay for it. but I remembered that it had 12 pieces to the bar at that time. So the next day I take it and I sell it in a schoolyard at 10 cents a piece to the other students because they
Ooh,
had 10 cents, but they didn't have a dollar to buy
right,
it.
right.
They would every day they were crowding around me to buy these 10 cents a bar. And some of them would actually buy like 10 pieces, could have bought a bar,
Yeah.
but that they would just keep cacking me back and buying it. So I won the prize for selling the most candy bars, and as well as I made 20 cents on the bar.
That's
So
awesome.
it's a
Broke it
problem.
up in pieces and sold a
Exactly.
bunch more. There's a
Exactly.
there's a there's a business lesson there.
Exactly, exactly. Sometimes, you have to be depend on your audience. Sometimes your audience
Yeah,
can't afford one, you can break it up and be able to sell them. Many times you can make more.
yeah,
Hence why you get things that are, pay more for things that are individual as opposed to the packages.
right.
Then when I, from that, then I went to USC.
Mhm,
And when I was living in Marina Del Rey, now I had first time coming to California, so I lived in Marina Del Rey. And I would note on the weekends that the guys would be off the boats and they'd be drinking and they just want to get off and go home. But it's not really dirty, that much dirty. So I created a company called Marina Mermaid. And we had
ooh,
little blue t-shirts that had mermaid on it, Marina Mermaid on
mhm,
it. We advertised in the local newspaper, the Argonaut, for like $35. I paid them $15. Kept $15 and $5 was appropriated for the supplies. So
mhm,
the girls from school would come in their break time. It was flexible schedule. As long as we had it done by the next week, come pick up their t-shirt, pick up their bucket and clean the boats. And it was great until one young lady was smoking on the boat and the cushion caught fire of the boat. So it wasn't really damaged that much, but the owner said, you need to get insurance. We
yeah,
didn't have insurance. He says, you need to replace this, but get insurance. And so that kind of scared me straight. And at that time, I didn't have money. It was prohibitive to be able to these $1 million boats. And I'm an 18-year-old or whatever, being able to
right,
get the insurance. So I always thought I was going to go back to it because it was a really easy job. I never did. But the lesson learned from that is that, when you start a business, it's easy to start a business. But if you don't have your legal, your accounting, your insurance, those certain pillars in place,
yeah,
and you can be in and out very, very quickly, especially today in today's society.
yeah,
Society. So you have a business plan. If you can't do those things first, stabilize those things, and you're not ready to open up your business. And then it just went from there. I had a modeling school and agency in the Berman Entertainment Center in Sunset. So I would take lessons and teach others, and we'd pay them in model media dollars so that they could use the dollars back in the company, buying portfolios and paying for picture sessions and things like that. So it's always been something that you want to do, that you're excited about doing, and then you're able to monetize it. And just because even when I started that, it was a 500 square foot space on Westwood Boulevard that I just saw, and it was this really, really cute courtyard. My mother says, "What are you gonna do with it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Let me get the lease first and I'll figure it out." Well, then I thought, well, I'll teach modeling. That's what I knew how to do and dancing, and started from there. And then we wind up expanding. So, it's just starting with an idea and a need. And
finding a need, right, and fulfilling it.
yes,
I love
yes.
it. That's awesome. I love the fact that you took lessons in the morning and then taught in the afternoon, like literally the same day, right? So you
It was
take
stressful
lessons and pay for them,
enough.
and then the same afternoon you're teaching it. And one of the things that
I'm
I
getting
encourage
paid for
people,
it.
well, one of the things that I encourage people to do, and I've been doing this for decades now, is when you have something you want to master,
Mhm,
doesn't matter what it is. If you
mhm.
have something you want to master, go teach it.
Yes.
Go find a way to go teach it. There are places like you found, right? There are places where people want to be taught and they will pay to be
Yes.
taught. And I get that it was a glorified babysitting thing and all that. But what I absolutely love about this wasn't something where you waited until you got a master's degree at USC, right? You literally that morning would learn it and then you'd teach it that afternoon. There's a real life lesson there for people, right?
Wow.
That we need to pay it forward. We need to mentor, like we were talking about the entrepreneurship, club and all that, and the STEM thing that you're doing. What you're doing to give back is absolutely invaluable. And what's amazing is somebody will go, people will go to that event, right? And they'll sit and they'll watch and they'll listen and you'll inspire people to go out and do things that they have been putting off. That's the feedback we're getting from our podcast is
Mhm.
people are connecting with your life right? Something about your life. Could be that they grew up in Philadelphia. It could be that, their favorite subject was music, right? That type
Mhm.
of thing. And so it never ceases to amaze me how people can connect because of different things that they have in common
Absolutely.
with somebody, you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
it reaches them, right? It's like they sort of sit up and pay attention kind of thing.
Mhm.
And oftentimes it's the right message to the right person at the right time, you
Exactly.
know? And it's a big deal. It's an absolutely big deal. And I hate to say it, but timing really is important, right? You just don't know who you're going to reach. And that's why I want to acknowledge you for everything you do to give back, because, not everybody does that. And we need more of that, right? We need more. We talk about this all the time on the podcast. We talk about people that have come into my life that didn't have the time, didn't necessarily need to. They stopped for a second, and one guy spent 10 minutes with me, completely changed my life. Completely changed my life. 10 minutes he didn't have. He was a busy guy. He was late to a meeting, all this, but he pulled me aside and had me talk to him in a parking lot in Escondido, California, behind his car. No joke, standing in the parking lot. And he said to me, it took all of 10 minutes. He said, "You're going the wrong direction. I've known you all of 2 weeks. And the impression I get from you is you want to be the best of the best. You want to be the captain of the industry. You want to be that guy." Well, hello, you're now playing my music, right? You think he got my attention? I mean, I'm like zeroed in on him now, right? And he said, he goes, "You can do that. You're just going at it wrong. You need to go this way instead of going this way." And I'm not joking, Desiree. The minute that I left him, I went to work doing exactly what he told me to do. And within 2 years, do you know that within 2 years after that 10 minutes of advice, I was one of the top producers in the industry I was in nationwide?
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's just amazing
And it
how.
was and it was only and I literally had, I'm not joking when I say this, I literally had CEOs of multi-billion dollar companies coming to me and asking my advice. I'm not joking. And it was like, are you kidding me right now? Right? But it came from just 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to encourage people to do. It's what I call paying it forward, right? Joe McCarroll was his name, by the way, and Joe's not with us anymore. But I will spend time with people time I don't have, right? But I will spend time with people and I will advise them and help them and coach them in honor of what Joe did for me,
That's amazing.
you know?
Mike, I think that what people don't realize is the biggest gift you get from giving is the gift you give to yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
People realize
Absolutely.
that they feel giving is going this way.
Yeah.
No, giving it's the biggest gift you give to yourself.
So I received a letter of recommendation the other day. Okay.
Ah.
And it was really sweet. It made me cry. And I was reading it to my wife. And a few days later, we're riding in the car together. We're on our way to breakfast or something. And she said, it must really, for guys like you, it must be a real ego thing when somebody sends you a letter like that, like when somebody's that thing. And I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with ego. It
Mhm.
has everything to do with the fact that we're working to pay it forward,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And this was a situation where this young man was sent to me by his father. He had gone to UCLA, graduated with a bachelor's degree, and went to his dad and said, "Now I want to get into real estate." And his dad, who used to work with me at my Keller Williams office, said, "Well, if you want to get into real estate, you need to talk to Mike Litton. I don't know if he has time for you, but I'll ask him. I'll make the introduction." And, my response was, "Absolutely, let's go." So I spent the next few months while he was studying to get his real estate license, preparing him to get into the industry, right? And just
Wow.
recently he was on social media. He has a big, beautiful house that he just bought. He has one of the top of the line, one of the most expensive Porsches on the market that he just had delivered to his house brand new. And they filmed it, and all that. I mean, I could not be more proud of him if I tried.
Yeah.
And he was kind enough to send me this letter. And I want to encourage people. I don't care what your station is in life. If you find a young person that's around you that needs help, stop focus on them and pay it forward. Help them however you can help them. Okay. Even if it's volunteering to speak at your church, even if it's what you're doing with the STEM event and the entrepreneur club, those types of things, it's just absolutely invaluable. And the way it makes you feel
Yes.
is just incredible. I love being able to honor Joe McCarroll. I love being able to honor my grandfather, right? My grandfather taught me more about business than anybody on the planet. I use things every day still. We lost him in 2011, right? Or 2007, pardon me. And I use things every day that man taught me. I'll never, it's just amazing. So
Amazing.
I love being able to honor those people that came before me and helped me. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you letting me talk about that. So
No, that's important.
so when did you start Homework?
So, I was in real estate since 1989 when
Yeah.
I came back, and then I was an agent, and then I was a broker, then I was an investor, and I started Homework in 2018. Prior to that, I had a women's group called An Empowered Woman,
Yeah.
and I initially did that because I was trying to get women involved in real estate. I
Right.
know a lot of women had the income, they had the credit, they just didn't have the knowledge or just the desire to invest in real estate.
Right.
But the minute I started Empowered Woman, which was in 2007, I became overwhelmed with it. I didn't do any real estate. I said the beginning of Empowered Woman was the end of my real estate career for that period, because we had women's groups and organizations monthly, second Sunday of the month for 12 years, every second Sunday except for December. We had
Wow.
big luncheons with different speakers, different themes every month, like January is Yes You Can, February is The Look of Love, March was Health and Wellness. And we just did that consistently. And there was a TV show and a podcast and just a lot of different events. So I wanted to combine that with the real estate, getting back to real estate, because then I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And where's my retirement and where's
Right.
all that jazz? It gets serious. And that's when Homework was. One day I was working, and I said, gosh, I just want to live where I work where I live, anywhere in the world. I had just become an empty nester, so now I could travel. I didn't have my sons or have all flew the coop. And so I started asking the women around, like, would you be interested in something like that? And I was like, yes, yes, yes. They were single, they were divorced, they were widowed, things of that type. And it was great because I wanted it to be for that market.
Right.
And so our first property was in Rancho Santa Fe. It was a four-bedroom bathroom house. And we tested the model short-term, midterm, and long-term. Then we realized, well, to really monetize it well, we needed a larger 12 bedrooms and 12 and a half baths.
Yeah.
So we started looking for boutique hotels or hostels or bed and breakfast inns that would have that type of not only facility, but have the designation, the SRO designation, single room occupancy. That way we weren't affected by any of the short-term rental laws that may change in different communities. So we
Right.
had that.
Can we back up for just a second?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Let's go back for just a second, because I know we talked about this before when we met.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that we highlight something. So Homework is HOMWORK, right?
Yes.
We're missing the E, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, so the idea behind Homework is you have a space where you live and you have a space where you work, and they're not the same space, right? So you have a space where you live, like you're saying, like an SRO, like a single room occupancy kind of thing. You have an apartment where you live, but then there's a space in that facility, separate, maybe on a different floor even, right? That is a work area. Will you talk about that for just a second? Because
Sure.
here's the
Absolutely.
thing. I think, like we talked about before we hit record, I think you're onto something here. In fact, I know you are. I'm talking to people about what you're doing, and there are people that are telling me this is something, because it's one thing to work at home, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
I just interviewed a gentleman a couple of days ago that's one of a very, very successful real estate investor. And he had a conversation with his wife, who's an executive. And when COVID hit, they moved home. He actually worked from home. She
Mhm.
came in and started working from home. And then she turned to him and said, okay, you got to get out of here. Right. And this is one of those things where what you're doing helps to solve those types of things, where people sort of feel like the walls are closing in on them kind of thing, right? And they can live somewhere and also have a workspace in that same building, like that same facility. Talk about that for a second, because you are
Sure.
onto something.
Surely, exactly what you said, especially before the pandemic, it was a lot of millennials and creative people that were living that lifestyle, co-working,
Yeah.
digital nomads and remote workers. Post-pandemic, everything changed. I'm sure
Yeah.
you and everybody else knows of many people, but now you have the professionals, you have the engineers, you have the accountants, the attorneys, the doctors, you can do WebMD. You
Right.
have all those people now that are working remotely from home, but it's like, why do I need to stay here in my home to do that? I can
Right.
go to the beaches of Cabo, I can go to the desert in Joshua Tree, I can go into San Diego. They can now move and work remotely with their computers and their phones.
Yeah.
The property, for example, you're right on when you say the one property has 12 bedrooms and 12 bathrooms. So all our properties have their own private bedroom and bathroom.
Right.
So that separates it from the hostels and things of that type. You have the privacy. And then we have a common kitchen and dining room area. And then we'll have a common work area, either a co-working lounge, like one of them is in the attic of the beautiful 1905 home.
Mhm.
And then they have outside areas where they have desks and tables and a large screen TV and lots of Wi-Fi and everything else you need. Another property in Cabo is on the beach side. So they have their own bedrooms and bathrooms, but we have it used to be a restaurant. We converted that to a co-working lounge. They have the pool area, and then we built out the rooftop with desks and fire pits and hammocks and things like that. They can work up there as well. Every property, every unit has a desk in their bedroom. So if they have privacy when they need it, if they're on a Zoom call, important meeting, they have privacy when they need it. But they have company when they want it. Like you
Right.
said, they can just walk, they're 100 steps away from other people and to work in other areas. So those who like that, a lot of people like being around, even if they're totally quiet, they just like being
Yeah.
around people. And then or going to a kitchen or going to a lounge area and talking or watching TV together, especially when you're traveling. So that's what this concept is. You don't have to stay home to be able to get what you need to get done. All the facilities are there, fax machines, again, the Wi-Fi, everything you need for a business. It's just all in one, and it's economical as well. You pay one fee and you get it all, as opposed to paying a fee in a hotel or Airbnb, now paying another fee for a day pass at a co-working station.
Mhm.
So it's all in one. You have people that you connect with. We have community events every week. We have dinners and potlucks and people at any given time, you have people from like 5 to 7 different countries, different
Yeah.
languages at the table. So they wind up doing yoga together, or one guy wind up teaching people how to surf recently, or they do play chess together. So things like that. So even couples, when you come as a couple, you've been traveling and now you kind of sick of each other. You want to meet some other people.
Yeah.
So it's a really between it's a hospitality business.
Yeah.
So between the price and the freedom and flexibility and the amenities and ability to travel as a remote worker, that number has expanded
Yeah.
tremendously. And so, which our properties have expanded, and now we are in the midst of, we just launched, we partnered with Outsite,
Mhm.
which is also the co-working, co-living. They're the largest in the world. They currently have over 50 properties in 17 different countries.
Wow.
So the deal is that we'll do the real estate, we do the fundraising, we raise funds, we're syndicators. We raise the funds, we buy the properties, and
Mhm.
the remodel, they market it, book it, and manage it. So it's
Okay.
perfect. They know what they're doing anywhere. They have a great team, and we know what we're doing on our end.
Right.
Because real estate is where you want to be vested in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, people don't realize until they watch like The Founder, that kind of thing, right? That
Uh-huh.
that McDonald's is the biggest real estate corporation in the world.
Exactly.
People think it's hamburgers, right? It is. I mean, there's
That's the
hamburgers
use of the
and
properties.
fries and all that, right? But
Right.
the real wealth is the real estate side.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
absolutely the case. And the beautiful thing about what you're doing is you have facilities in Cabo. Like,
Mhm.
I can go to Cabo, stay in
Mhm.
one of your facilities and 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 do my podcast from there, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
I can work from there,
Absolutely. It's
right?
perfect. Perfect for that.
So I was just having a conversation the other day with my cellular provider, and I thought of you. Interesting, right? So I thought of you, and the reason I did was because I was at a hotel that shall remain nameless, but it happens to be the hotel I stay at wherever I go
Mhm.
all the time. It's where I stay, right? And I'm rewards member or whatever you want to call it, right?
Mhm.
But they don't have a secured Wi-Fi. Their
Mm.
Wi-Fi that I'm allowed to use is unsecured, and I cannot be on an unsecured server.
Absolutely.
I cannot be on an unsecured network. So my cellular provider and I had a conversation last year about I'm starting a podcast, and I'm going to have to be able to go places and do that podcast. I'm going to have to be able to do interviews somewhere other than here,
Yes.
right? And I ended up with a mobile hotspot that didn't work.
Mhm.
And so I end up going to their office in another state, another city, another state, because I literally have a podcast coming up the next day, and I'm not able to do it. I tried to do one and I ended up having to reschedule it. So I'm like, I can't reschedule all my podcasts. We're literally, I told you this before we hit record, we're episode 238, right? So
Fantastic. Congrats.
we've done a lot of episodes. We've had some demand here. We
Mhm.
have over 500 people that have approached us about being on the podcast. And the thing about it is, I have to be able to do what I do. So I go to their store, their storefront, and they end up looking at everything and they're like, "Hey, we need to upgrade you. Here's what we need to do, right? You can do it, but this has to happen." So we did it.
Mhm.
So I ended up calling them and saying, "Look, this is not working for me. Here's the thing. That whole thing, that whole equation goes away when I stay at your facility because you have Wi-Fi for me to use, right? I can
So
work from there,
absolutely.
right?"
And our Wi-Fi is not just Wi-Fi. We've gone through, that's like one of them, one areas that we spend the most money on, in
Yeah,
the sense that we had them hardwired into the ceiling of each unit,
yeah,
not just a modem that you plug in. We cut open the ceilings, we put the wires through, we tested it inside and outside. So we had to re-cement, they're hardwired in to each unit, because we had to be prepared, and we test it all the time.
yeah.
And by the pool, people want to do things by the pool, they want to do it on the rooftop and so forth. So the Wi-Fi is really important, because again, imagine being a WebMD. You've
Mhm.
got to be able to, you can't, you have to have those facilities. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
For
You can
sure,
go
and there are
there.
more and more, like you said, there's more and more people working remotely.
Mhm.
So this is a real fit, and I think you're onto something here, and I'm super excited to see how what you've done so far, and then see how you do in the future. Pretty cool. So you have a couple of properties that are in another country that you're
Yeah.
working on. In fact, you said you're leaving here pretty
Oh.
quick to go there.
Mhm.
Um, so how many countries are you in right now?
Two,
Okay.
Mexico and the US. We were in July, we were in Montreal,
Mhm.
Canada, so we're in Toronto. So we're still looking for some properties there, but it has to be the right property. It has to
Yeah,
be profitable and, and cash flowing even when we buy it for
right,
the investor's sake. Because it's the people that want to invest in real estate, but they don't want the time and the tantrums and the tenants. So
right.
they invest with us, they get consistent dividends or distributions, and they also do an equity split. So when we refinance or sell the property, get equity. So it's perfect for those people. So we have to buy something that's really, really good, a good deal. But we also, the one I go to tomorrow is two boutique hotels in Puerto Escondido. They're very, very popular. All the spots that we are popular. We do polls and we do research to make sure that the traffic is coming there. We're in negotiations in Joshua Tree and Las Vegas and South Beach. So we're doing the due diligence process for those, and we're just moving right along.
That's
But
awesome.
there's a
That's
big
awesome.
demand for it. There's a big demand, and they have a beautiful place in Greece that we're going to do next year, 14-bedroom villa in Greece. So again, people can go anywhere, they can work anywhere, and they can be among business professionals, entrepreneurs. No children,
Yeah.
no animals, just the business professionals and entrepreneurs.
So full disclosure, I interviewed a guest, and she was in Greece
Mm.
working on a trip, basically previewing a trip. She was out there, getting everything ready, making the arrangements for a trip, a group trip to go there to cook and hang out. And it was a vacation kind of thing, but it was also learning how to cook and all that, right? And she was literally sitting on the balcony. And I had no idea. I thought maybe she was on her balcony in Colorado or something, right? And she said, "Yeah, I'm actually in Greece right now." And I'm like, "You're kidding me?" She goes, "Oh no, look at the view." And she turns the
Oh,
computer
nice,
up. It's like,
nice.
wow, this is gorgeous.
Wow, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is you really are onto something in that, there's a lot of traveling going on, a lot of work that's happening that's remote, and people need what you guys are building and what you're putting together. So I have a question for you. So when somebody invests with you, it sounds like they make their money work for them, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there depreciation involved?
Only as a tax, if it's tax advantageous, but basically they can count on doubling their money in 5 years.
That's awesome.
So the depreciation is applied towards the tax benefits, but it's mostly the returns that they get, the monthly or quarterly distributions, and then the equity split. That's why we buy properties with equity, so that we know
Gotcha.
that it's there.
Yeah, there's a reason why there are more millionaires made in real estate than any other form of investment
I
by
love
far.
I love real estate. I live real estate. I look at hundreds of houses a day. Some days I'll go through every property within a price point in California. Every property for a period of time. When I'm looking in Vegas, I knew every single solitary house on the market that was between a certain price point and the bedroom count. So, and I never get tired of looking. I never get tired of going. Last week I was in Mexico. I went to see properties in La Paz, properties in Todos Santos, and properties in Cabo.
Wow.
And then now tomorrow I'm going again to Puerto Escondido. So United States, Canada, and Mexico are the areas that we're primarily concentrating on. But again, Greece is my exit.
I love it. I love it. So just full disclosure, and I shared this with you when we met that time. One of my wife's favorite places on the planet is Puerto Escondido. She absolutely raves about it.
Oh my
Absolutely
gosh,
raves
I
about
need
it.
her to go down with me.
Yeah, so she vacationed down there with her brother, and she's never stopped talking about it. She absolutely
Really?
just glows when she
Wow.
talks about Puerto Escondido. So you're onto something there too.
Tell her
I'm
come on
super,
down.
yeah, I'm
Tell her to
super
come on
excited
down.
for you. This is really, really cool. Well, listen, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Now, if people want to reach out to you, can they go to homework.com? Is it HOMWORK.com? Is that the best way?
That's it.
Okay,
And
so
then
we'll
my
put a
email is
link.
Desiree@homework.com.
There you
I
go. So we'll put
DEA.
a link to your website
Mhm.
in the description for the episode.
Absolutely. Mike, I just want to really thank you. Thank you very much for doing what you're doing. And because it sounds like it's just definitely for the good of the people.
Yeah.
You're doing it for people can benefit from it. That's a gift. And that's a gift that I know that every time somebody listens to you on your podcast, it's a gift to them. So thank you for sharing your time, your expertise, and with the world.
Thanks for being here. This was fun.
Great.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.